Hello and welcome to the Founder Side Chat, the Hustle to Flow Founder Side Chat edition. And this is really important because today I'm sharing on a topic that I think is pivotal. Now, normally I have a organized presentation with slides, but this is too important to wait. And what we're talking about is producing productive decisions. The topic is that productive decisions require the right data. And why is data architecture so important for founder led businesses? So, the reason this topic is important for me is that I have been studying patterns for half a year, which may not sound like much to many. However, it's quite a bit. And one of the things I identified through that exercise is that there's an important piece missing for most founders, and I would dare say every founder, that we need to address, and we need to start the dialogue. You know what? I discovered that people don't wake up wondering, what pattern of behavior is this in my business that lets me know the location of it so that I can make a better decision? Nobody thinks that way, right? So this whole, even though it's very important to me and I'm very passionate about it, and it is very important, it is not the language that most people are speaking. Not because it's not important, it's just it's just not something people talk about. And so the challenge is, how do I effectively start the conversation, initiate the dialogue that begins this conversation around data architecture and how it serves the founder-led business? And that's what I hope to do in this short time that we're together right now. Now, I didn't just come up with these ideas based on 6 months of pattern investigation. For 20 years, I have been observing, integrating, managing, surviving systems and processes in many different formats, in multi-million dollar IT marketing solutions delivered to the top automotive manufacturers in the world. I've created internal business functions from scratch and also created businesses inside entrepreneurship, other businesses, and audited both manufacturing and distribution. I've seen a lot of systems. And what I can tell you is that when it comes to getting things done, understanding what's going on inside your business, there are two fundamental challenges that will stop you in your tracks every single time. And I'm going to share those two with you right now. Not that you're going to change the way you think about things today, but I want you to begin to think about how data architecture how you can see it in your business, how you can recognize whether or not you've experienced this in your business. And I would like for us to start a dialogue about it and how we can spread the word to help founders to understand more about why the tools and the tactics and the strategies that you implement don't always work out the way you thought. My name is Juhl T, Lenard, and I am the founder's revenue systems architect. So the two areas that will stop you in your track, the first one is having the right data. I think anyone would agree that we all have plenty of data. We've got plenty of tools. You can get dashboards and CRMs and all sorts of stuff. You got plenty of data. But data does not always translate into information. And what happens is that we take a tool, we shoehorn our business into it, and then we look at the questions we want to answer and try to find them based on what we've cobbled together in this system. It's backwards, right? Not to say negatively like, oh my gosh, you're backwards, but just to say that we do think there's things that we do differently as founders. Okay. You're not alone. Corporate's the same way. I spent many years in corporate. It's the same way because we run into a problem and then we fix it, right? But the reason I feel like this is so important, why data architecture is so important for founder-led businesses, is because you are in a unique position to be able to build in a revenue-focused operating system from the beginning and then manage your business around revenue-driving decisions, productive decisions. Just think about that for a minute. Think about the speed with which you would be able to move if the information, the questions you needed to answer about your business were readily available in real time, right? This is something that you're uniquely positioned to do. Now, why is it relevant now? What's the big deal? Generations of business owners and entrepreneurs have come before us and they've done just fine. And they didn't have data architecture and they didn't even know what it was, right? And didn't care. Well, that's something those big corporate people do. The thing that has changed is that there were never as many tools, never as much data, never as much speed, and never as many different paths that you could go in terms of being able to identify a result for your business. Never before. Maybe you had your inbox and email and, maybe you had a website, but you had like flyers and stuff like that back in the day. Now there are so many different tools that it kind of makes your head spin. So what we wind up doing as founders is we just kind of throw something up against the wall, see if it sticks. And then we're puzzled as to why the results don't come. And the challenge is that it's not wrong. You do what you have to do. But there is a way that you can become better at making those productive decisions. And you can be better at diagnosing what area you need to use to identify those tactics and tools and strategies so that when you invest your resources, okay, you're investing them in strategically in an area that you're pretty certain is going to generate a result. Now, let me just take a minute and say, what do I mean when I say a productive decision? A productive decision for me means it's when you have identified that there is an issue, you've been able to identify the behavior in your business, okay, because you know the pattern. You take the pattern that you identified and you locate it in the revenue system. And once you've located it in the revenue system, you can identify solutions, you test the data, and then you deploy the solution, right? So a productive decision then allows you to go into a tactic or a tool or any other strategy with an expectation, a hypothesis on what your expectations are. Then you can share that hypothesis with whoever the vendor is or whatever the team member is that is helping you to implement that strategy. And so you're now speaking the same language. Data architecture for founders gives you a way to teach your business to speak a language that you and vendors and AI can all understand. Why is this important? Let me just say that AI needs data architecture too. Because in order for your AI to work, your business has to have a language that is speaking to AI in so that AI can interpret what makes sense for your business. Okay? So when I talk about productive decisions and data architecture for founders, what I'm talking about is teaching your business to speak the language that allows it to answer the questions you need answered to make effective, productive decisions in your business. Okay? That was a mouthful. And I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about it. So where am I going with this? Oh, that was the first one. The second area that will stop you dead in your tracks. So the first one is not having the right data. The second one is not having a mechanism for data collection that is easy to have compliance. In other words, you can have a great tool, but how many, you know what? I usually don't say this, but put a comment if you've ever had a trouble with someone adopting a CRM, salespeople putting their information into the CRM, putting all their contacts in. We used to struggle with that all the time. Why? Because it's not native. It's not easy for them to do. It doesn't take into consideration the way that we work. And that's what makes compliance difficult. And even if you have the most amazing data architecture and you have the best tool that you invested in the best consultants and everything, the lack of compliance, the cultural issues that surround compliance will stop you dead in your tracks. These things slow you down. And if you are growing and focused on growing your business, you have a need for speed. You don't want things to slow you down. Where are you going with this, Juhl? So data architecture allows you to be able to structure the language and teach your business to talk. But then you also need the tool that helps your business to acquire that data in a very reliable, accurate way. So I have decided that in addition to the work that I'm doing with the pattern, which I believe the patterns are absolutely required and necessary, okay? The layer that's been missing is the data collection. The other area that I've been challenged with is the language and helping to educate on the language of data architecture and the language of pattern and pattern recognition and constraint analysis, okay? So here's what I decided to do. I'm opening up my platform as a SaaS so that I can demonstrate what this actually looks like in practice. So I'm in the process of changing some things around right now. But the point is that things like you've seen the founder visibility snapshot. The reason why the snapshot is important, and this is not a plug at all. I just want to share this thing about, I made that comment earlier about the contact being like an atom, because everything in your business revolves around the contact. We have a contact, which in and of itself is very little information. You've got a name, an email, you've got, 5,000 of them. But what is valuable is when you build a data architecture that allows you to capture and structure the data around that contact so that you can answer the questions you need to answer. Now that is powerful. This is the challenge that I want to make for you, for founders. I want you to look at your business over the next few days. Think about the questions that you want to answer, right? What would you like your business to tell you? One example you might say, oh, I want to know where all my demand sources are. Okay, you can probably get the generic demand sources from any CRM, I would guess. But then I want you to ask yourself, what level of detail do you want that answer at? And that will determine what data you need to collect. So anyway, I know that's a lot. And I'm a little, in a feisty mood today. So I'm kind of excited about it because I have a lot going on around that change that I'm making. And so what I would encourage you to do is make sure to ask the question. You can ask me any question about data architecture. You can ask me any question about any tool, and I'm happy to have a dialogue with you about it because I'm very passionate. And I really believe that founders are in a unique position to create productive decisions, not just random decisions that have measurable results and will provide you with the positioning to be commander in chief, really, of all of the activities that come into your business. Okay. Instead of having it the other way around, where you kind of feel like you have a lot of things going in different directions and they're not all coming together. So anyway, I hope that you are beginning to see the importance of data architecture for a founder-led business. And again, would love to hear your thoughts on data architecture for founders, challenges that you have experienced, and how you would go about looking at your business differently based on the questions that you want to answer and not the tools that are available. Okay. I encourage you to see more, guess less, and always diagnose before you deploy. Bye for now.